Chris, welcome back to Trent Bridge. We've had a couple of weeks of the dust to settle on the Under-19 T20 World Cup. Have you had a time to sort of reflect and look back on those experiences and all the time you had there ultimately?
Yeah, it was a fantastic month while we were out there and a good couple of months lead up back here. So a lot of reflections took place, was back into it relatively quickly, so they're ongoing and still taking the time and get flashbacks to South Africa every so often, which is nice. But from a coaching perspective, I feel like I've learnt a lot out there and definitely stuff that I can bring back and impact here at Blaze, which is good.
And it was one that was ultimately enjoyable, was it? I suppose you have the pressure of wanting to win, but also, you know, these girls and yourself and the coaching team are going through something that you might not have gone through before. So how did that sort of play out? Yeah,
it was, with it being the first ever, it gave a bit of an opportunity to explore how we wanted to go about it. So massively a goal was to get there and to try and win the World Cup. But there was another couple of areas where we were looking a bit more holistic development with the players as well, and exposing them to different things that they might not have been exposed to back at regions. So like press interviews, we did some stuff back in Loughborough where we got a club team who did some like an interview panel with the girls. The girls did like presenting skills, did a Cricket for Good session out there, so I went and worked with some young like African kids and got involved in that. So it was really good to just like look at it a bit more holistically as well as just bat and ball, which was important. And
quite energising probably for you as a coach, I can imagine, because you're, you know, the graft here, especially in the winter when the days are short and a lot of dark days. Yeah, but getting out in South Africa and doing something slightly different was energising for you.
Yeah, it was great for me to sort of, I've been involved in the 100 last year as an assistant coach, but it was really good to have that sort of focus of a short competition and every game having an importance, and looking at how we best implemented that and how we could remain consistent throughout, whether that was playing Zimbabwe in the first game or India in the final. Just trying to be really consistent with approach. But it was definitely like, we had heavy rain the first day we got to South Africa, and then it was wall-to-wall sun until the day we left. So you never had to think about much apart from putting your shorts on and going and chucking a few balls, which was good.
And how was it bringing the group together as well? Because I suppose they're all from different parts of the country and you're chucking them together just the other side of Christmas. And they looked like a team who were very together, very cohesive, and a coaching group who were as well. So how do you go about that process of making sure everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, it happened quite naturally. But I do think that one thing that sort of accelerated that was very early on, we got all of the players to present their own development plans, and staff also presented their development plans about what they wanted to achieve, what they were good at, what their strengths were, and a bit more about them as people outside of the cricket as well. I think that massively helped to accelerate that. The girls naturally in an under-19 competition are all relatively similar in terms of life experience, so that was good that they sort of built relationships in that way as well. But I thought it would take a little longer than it did, and it was really rewarding to see it happening so quickly.
And did you realise during the competition how much sort of interest, sounds a bit obvious, but how much there was sort of gone back home, I think, to the semi-final in particular, where you beat Australia, and everyone was sort of fixed to their TV screens when there was another men's game to be watching potentially as well. Did you appreciate and realise how much was going on that side of things?
Perhaps not right at that moment. As soon as the game finished and the phones got turned back on, it became quite evident like how much it had captured the imagination back here, and the traction it was picking up. Obviously it was really good the England senior team came and watched the final. The coaches of the senior team would message regularly pre and post games to wish us luck, and I know that some of the girls also got messages from some of the players. So Catherine Brunt I know sent a message to Lex, and I know that Eccleston sent one to Soph Smale as well. So there was some really good interest throughout, and yeah, the social media stuff sort of blew up afterwards as well, which was great.
So you got another block of training ahead for the players on a deload week this week. You're sort of coming back into things as head coach, and it's a nice sort of timely break. How do things look when you do go back into training?
It was really good to be back in last week. It was great to come back and see everyone. The energy around the group was brilliant. John has done a fantastic job with Si, while myself, Laura and Dan have been away. And they've done a really good job about keeping the group energised and making sure that we're ready to go. So that was great to come back in and see that last week.
How much communication was needed while you were sort of out there with a lot of sort of WhatsApp messages going backwards and forwards so you could keep abreast of what was happening?
Yeah, I was definitely trying to keep a check on what was going on. John and I spoke. I wouldn't say it was that regular. I was pretty honest and upfront that with the 19s opportunity, I wanted to go and expose myself to that and invest completely in that. So we'd catch up weekly, and we had a couple of other calls that we had to pick up on, but completely trust the way that John would have gone about his business, and we worked really closely together. So I was really happy with him taking the reins for a month.
And now that we are in February, does the season feel a bit closer? As I said earlier, when you're sort of training in November, it can feel a little bit of way off when you've got a few layers on, but now the sun's out, it feels like a bit more crickety.
Yeah, very much. And obviously having come off the back of a bit of competition out there and stuff, it's got my juices flowing. I really can't wait for the season to start. Training really well at the moment. Like I said, the group are together. I'm just looking forward to seeing how we put it into practice on the pitch and starting a new identity, which is just, it's been great to do it in the winter, but it's going to be even more enjoyable to do it through the summer.
You've got a couple of new contracted players since you were last here as well, which is exciting for the group.
Yeah, so we've managed to expand the contracts. So there's another 3 players. So Josie Groves, Teresa Graves and Grace Ballinger have all signed their first professional contracts, which is great to see, and it's lovely to see that reward going for the hard work that they put in, not just before Christmas, but in the season last year as well, which is good. It's
a nice, I suppose, symbolism that you've been out with England and inspiring generations back here, and also there's more contracts becoming available. It's an indication that the women's game is going in the right direction, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, what a time to be involved from a playing perspective. The Women's Premier League auction just yesterday, and then obviously new franchise tournaments seem to be popping up regularly. The fact that there's 10 contracted players here, hopefully we get to a point where we've got a squad of contracted players. Same thing from a staffing perspective. I think we're really well staffed here. So I've just been speaking to one of our girls who's abroad at the moment, and one of her reflections is that the contact that we have here and the professionalism of staff around the environment is significantly further ahead than in other parts of the world, which is great to hear as well.